Hello everyone, I'm Meteorologist Charlie Ironmonger. Thank you so much for joining me today for another edition of Charlie Loves Science. Now again, normally I would try to bring you guys an update on the scientific community and what kind of progress is being made, what kind of breakthroughs have shown up. And in fact, there has been a breakthrough in battery technology that I've been trying to again highlight for the past 2 weeks, but the continuation of the threat of snow in eastern North Carolina always again grabs the attention of eastern North Carolinians, just North Carolinians in general, from the coast all the way to the mountains. Everyone in the North Carolina zone, again, is always interested, at the very least, interested whenever snow is in the forecast. Some more than others. So I want to break down exactly what we saw last week. What happened that turned what ended up being an incredibly strong system, winter system across the southeastern United States. What caused it to save eastern North Carolina from the type of fate that is fully grasped Tennessee? They again are still looking at power outages, still looking at frozen conditions across Nashville and areas near the mountains. I spoke with my cousin again, who lives in eastern Tennessee, and she is still very much snowed in and iced in, more importantly, at her house. And as of last night, did not have any power after, I believe it's now counted up to 4 days without power. So we really dodged a bullet last week. And a lot of people, again, may have been annoyed that they didn't get snow. People may have, again, been grateful, at least we didn't get ice, but everybody pretty much got rain over last weekend. A few people saw some snowflakes and a little bit of some slush accumulations early Sunday morning, but everything, again, kind of just washed away after that. So I want to break down exactly what models were showing leading up to last weekend's event. We will start out by taking a look at what we saw on Monday. Now again, these were essentially a model trend of what models were spitting out at that time. So here is the track of the area of low pressure. In fact, I'm going to get my face off of there for right now. But that gives you an idea of what the track looked like for that low pressure system. Kind of formed over the northern portion of the Gulf of California, then made its way, or was supposed to make its way, again, along that line over Texas, and then moving over essentially Myrtle Beach into the Cape Fear area. That's what we initially saw on Monday. Now, of course, we saw something different on Tuesday. Not only did we see that initial low pressure system, the line, work its way a little bit further northward, we also saw a split in the low. So we saw essentially a secondary area of low pressure form by the time that a first low reached the Mississippi River. Another low out ahead of it developed and kind of followed its path into eastern North Carolina. That's what we were looking at this point last week, that kind of adjustment. That was the big one that took us from essentially looking at a snow event for eastern North Carolina to then being faced, at least with that solution, more of an ice event. Of course, that wasn't what actually ended up transpiring. The actual path took that low pressure system and stuck it further northward, moved over Boone, and then worked its way kind of closer towards the Norfolk area and Virginia Beach and in Virginia. So that was essentially the breakdown of the forecast itself. With that low sitting south of most of eastern North Carolina, that provided most of the east with the cold air needed in order to provide snow. But as that path shifted further and further northward, we saw that cold air essentially get shoved out. A lot of warm air moved in, and by warm air, we're talking about air temperatures above 32 degrees. And that, again, really dominated the forecast. That's what turned everything that looked like this initially. This is what it was supposed to do. Rolling through, you can see again a good portion of eastern North Carolina initially would have seen snowflakes out of that system. And while again you could say, all right, well, Carteret County, Onslow County, extending, over Cumberland County down towards New Hanover County, Cape Fear area, those areas still saw rain. But look at the backside of that system. As it were to pull out into the Atlantic, those areas on the coast would have seen snow coming down. So everyone with that initial forecast that was put out on Monday looked like it was going to snow. But Obviously, that's not what actually happened. Here is the path that it actually took. You saw kind of that brief little nose of snow working its way across parts of eastern North Carolina and then changing over into pretty much just rain. That's exactly what we ended up seeing. A lot of rain out of last weekend's system. So we know what happened last weekend now. We understand that, of course, just a small adjustment in the track of the low pressure system can take us from snow to rain. It can absolutely destroy a snowfall forecast. So let's take a look at what models have shown us over the past few days. And this is a look at Monday's trend. Again, I'm going to get rid of my face here. I'm just sitting in the wrong spot. But the area of low pressure on Monday that's supposed to give us the moisture content, that was more focused, at least using the European model, the 0Z runs from Monday all the way through Wednesday. We'll get to Tuesday and Wednesday's runs coming up here in just a bit. But that start of that low pressure's development, or at least life cycle, really started between Houston and Dallas. And from there, kind of cruised along the Gulf Coast, moving over northern Florida, and then, again, staying a healthy way off of our coastline. But it also showed a very, very strong signature. So it was a really, really strong low pressure system. And that allowed it again to get enough moisture together to fling it back over eastern North Carolina as we went through that model run. How was Monday's trend? Let's fast forward it. Here was Tuesday's trend. Yesterday, what are we looking at? No, I'm still in the way. I'm getting out of there. Anyways, southern Arkansas is now the initialization point for that area of low pressure. From there, again, drifting its way down across the Gulf Coast and over Florida, but this time hugging eastern North Carolina a little bit closer than what we saw with the previous system. Again, the change isn't much, but it is a change, and it does impact the snowfall forecast for eastern North Carolina. That was yesterday. Here was this morning's run, the European run, 0Z, earlier this morning. And again, showing a similar start position with, again, that trend curling back towards eastern North Carolina once it clears the Florida, the coast, the east coast of Florida, that is. Now, I do have a question here, pretty good one. I'll answer this question. We've got one from Leanne Muse. Would you say the Euro, GFS, or CMC ran the most accurate track? I'm assuming you are referring to, Leanne, last week's system. And if you're referring to last week's system, the Euro was the first one to really highlight the two low pressure solution that ended up actually being the case. So that one ended up being the most accurate. I didn't look at the CMC all that closely. It was usually the Euro, the GFS, or of course ensemble models. But yeah, the Euro last week really nailed the forecast. That's why this week, again, you're seeing it up there, using the Euro, again, trying to use the more accurate model that we have seen over the past 7 days. And this, again, was the look at Wednesday's track. So let's put them all together, and you can see just what we have seen over the past 48 hours. And it can give you an idea of how difficult it can be to, again, forecast snow in eastern North Carolina. Now, what this isn't showing, this is just the track. We are focusing on just the track right here. And there are certainly, again, deviations, very wide deviations, especially when you focus back towards the start of the low. One in Texas, another kind of in southern Arkansas, another one still in southern Arkansas, but taking different paths. So the real congruent point between all of them is the track over northern Florida. That, again, is the one that I think everybody is pretty locked in on. I was like, okay, we know this low is going over Florida. But from there, you can see how the tracks try to spread out a little bit. And that is, again, why we are hesitant to put out any sort of snowfall amounts at this point. Now, again, that tells us one part of the story. The other part of the story is obviously the strength of the system. And generally, the longer you go out in time, or the further out in time you try to see ahead, the stronger those storms are going to look. Just because of how, if you've got a little bit of air in your initialization or the start of your models, say, we've got air temperatures at Pitt Greenville Airport. This is just hypothetical. We've got, say, the air temperature is showing up as 33 degrees. But in actuality, the actual air temperature is, say, 32.6 degrees. There's a rounding error there. You round up, but if you extrapolate that out over time, that little error gets bigger and bigger and bigger the farther out in time you go, to the point where it eventually seriously impacts your forecast. So it is very normal to see very strong low pressure systems far out in time, and it's very normal to see, as you get closer to the arrival of those low pressure systems or storm systems, them get a little bit weaker than what you initially had thought they were going to be. That's why, again, as you look long-range forecasts, they're usually less accurate than short-range forecasts. It's a lot easier to be correct within a 3-day period than it is to be within an 8-day period. So that is another factor that we are going to be keeping a very close eye on, but it was also one that was going to be pretty difficult for me to truly show you guys, but I did want to at least run through it and explain it because, again, it's the track and it's the strength of the low that will truly determine how much snow we get out of this system. Again, it has just been, it's been an adventure. It's something I absolutely love to do, is forecast weather, especially, you know, forecasting the difficult events. But that doesn't mean that just because you love something that you're automatically great at it and can see the future and know exactly what's going to happen. But that's what, again, makes it exciting and makes it interesting, is the fact that it can change fairly quickly, and you got to know exactly what's going to cause those changes and what to look for, again, ahead of time before those changes occur. Now, again, we've got some questions here. Do you think this could impact roads? From Rachel. Rachel, yes, I do believe roads are going to be significantly impacted over this weekend. Less so Saturday morning. Obviously, I do think, you know, we'll start to see some snowflakes come down early on Saturday. But then as we make our way into really Sunday, that's when we really start to accumulate more snow. It's going to be light at first, but it's going to last through most of the day on Saturday. And then by Sunday, I think the roads are going to be very treacherous out there. Now, obviously, I would advise everyone to not do any driving over this weekend. I know if I could not do any driving, I would 100% just stay at home the whole time, but I've got to be here to tell you guys where the worst spots are. So I will, again, be coming in over the weekend. Not sure exactly when. But yeah, it's not something I want to do, and if I could encourage people to stay off of the roads, I would do it wholeheartedly. Please, don't go on the roads. If you need to get something, get it now or get it later. Don't get it on Saturday or Sunday. And most likely, I probably wouldn't be getting it on Monday either. Everything is just going to refreeze. Now, let's see if we got any other questions. Of course, we are going to be we're going to be taking a more in-depth look coming up at 3 o'clock as far as your forecast is concerned. This was more kind of a look at just what model trends are doing to give you guys an inside peek at exactly what goes into the forecast and what we have seen so far with this system coming up this weekend. But that's all we have time for again, today's Charlie Loves Science. I'm looking at the clock at 2:44, and Dustin needs our computer at 2:45 in order to get ready for ENC at 3. So I'm going to let you guys go. I'll be back here with more answers for your questions. Make sure you bring them over on Facebook, and we will go over the forecast in full detail coming up at 3. Until then, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday. If I don't see you at 3, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.